And as President Trump deals with the fallout from his former lawyer and his campaign chair, he's continuing to face trouble on the policy front. The Senate is expected to vote next week on the House resolution that would end the president's emergency declaration for a border wall. Well, a handful of Republicans have already said that they will side with Democrats, though the president can, of course, still veto it. And in an appearance at Duke University last night, former Chief of Staff and Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly spoke about the wall. He said Border Patrol officials he's spoken to believe it's a waste of money.
We don't need a wall from, sea to shining sea, as I said. The CBP, Customs and Border Protection people who are so familiar with the border, they can tell you, if you say, look, I can get you 40 miles, they'll tell you exactly where they want. I can get you 140 miles, they can tell you exactly where they want. If I told them I could get you 2,000 miles, they'd say, it seems like an awful waste of money. Because they don't need it everywhere is the point.
Joining me now from Washington, Bob Cusack. He's editor-in-chief of The Hill. So, Bob, Kelly's comments seem to contradict what President Trump claims big time about these border officials are telling him. Are his comments likely to sway any of these Republicans who want to vote against him?
I don't think they're going to have the comments are not going to change votes, but it's just another signal that people who work for Trump have had contentious relationships with the president, and this is only going to add ammunition to the critics of the emergency declaration. And without a doubt, this resolution is going to pass. It's going to be embarrassing for the president because he's going to have to veto it. The good news for the president is that Congress doesn't have the votes to override his veto. Now, we've been reporting that Senate Republicans are trying to come up with a last-ditch effort to get him money that's already been appropriated. Well, that's very, very unlikely to succeed because Trump is not going to back down on this. So next week, I would fully expect the Senate to pass this. It's just a matter of how many Republicans defect. Remember, all Democrats, including Joe Manchin, are voting to buck Trump here. Joe Manchin comes from a state that Trump won by 42 points. Now, Manchin does support a wall. He doesn't support the emergency. So this is going to be some rough headlines for the president next week.
I want to turn and ask you also about the House Democrats' resolution to condemn anti-Semitism. Of course, this comes after Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's comments about Israel. Boy, it's been fascinating to watch these new freshmen and Nancy Pelosi walk that fine line. Here's what she had to say at a presser today.
I understand how advocates come in with their enthusiasms, but when you cross that threshold into Congress, your words weigh much more than when you're shouting at somebody outside. And I feel confident that her words were not based on any anti-Semitic attitude, but that she didn't have a full appreciation of how they landed on other people, where these words have a history and a cultural impact that may have been unknown to her.
Bob, you see the Speaker of the House. She's kind of giving her the benefit of the doubt. If she, as she said, she doesn't believe the Congresswoman's remarks were anti-Semitic, why then go forward with the resolution at this point?
Well, part of the reason, Rena, is that if Democrats don't do it, Republicans are going to force a vote on this, and they could craft a resolution that would be even tougher to vote on, especially for some moderate Democrats as well as liberal Democrats. I talked to some Democratic freshmen today, and they're kind of downplaying it, saying, well, listen, we're having kind of a squabble, and this is not such a big deal. But this has been a problem because, remember, Rena, Democrats are passing H.R. 1. This is a sweeping ethics bill, campaign finance reform bill. Remember, this is the first bill that they want to pass and really highlight to the Senate, which is not going to pass this. We're not talking about that sweeping legislation. We're talking about this Omar controversy. And the question is, of course, when's the next time Congresswoman Omar is going to say something that's controversial? This could be an ongoing problem for Pelosi and her deputies.
When you talk about these new freshman Democrats who came in buoyed by folks who really wanted change on Capitol Hill, how is the old guard, the old Democratic folks, juggling this new dance with these new folks? You've got, the Green New Deal to Rashida Tlaib, who's called for impeachment. How are they balancing their new voices?
You know, it's been a tough week for the House Democratic Caucus. The House Democrats and Senate Democrats, they were fully unified on the government showdown, and they basically won that battle. This has been different. They don't all support Green New Deal. They don't all support Medicare for all. Some are pushing for impeachment. Nancy Pelosi has signaled she doesn't want to do impeachment, and she wants to wait certainly until Mueller. And even after then, I don't think she wants to do impeachment. She wants to pursue the Democratic agenda. So this is a problem. And this is a problem that I think Nancy Pelosi hasn't seen because you have some powerful House freshmen. Usually that doesn't exist. Freshmen don't have that much power, but certainly Ocasio-Cortez has a ton of power.
That's a great point. Hey, I can't let you go without talking 2020. We always got to talk 2020. Our own Ed O'Keefe reporting that former Vice President Joe Biden is sort of in his final stages of launching his presidential campaign, likely expected to kick off next month. We know last month that Biden said that he believes voters are looking for people of character more than any other issue. There's more than a dozen candidates now in the Democratic Party at this point. So is that still the case? And do you think he really has the electability and the opportunity really to be top of the ticket at this point?
I think if he enters, and I expect him to get in, Joe Biden to get in, I think he's a front runner. I don't think he is the front runner. I think he's going to be attacked on a number of issues, most notably his vote for the Iraq War. That's going to hurt him, especially with the progressive base. So we've talked to some Republicans at the CPAC Republican Conference recently, and they said they most fear Biden versus Trump in the general election. The big question, though, is can he win the primary? Is he liberal enough? That remains to be seen. But this is a very different situation than his prior presidential runs. His name ID is so high. He is a likable politician. So certainly he is a top contender. I just think this race is wide open.
That's so interesting to hear you say that. One person who just announced a short time ago he's not running, Ohio Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown. What's your take on that?
I think partly because Biden's probably going to get in and they were going to share some of the voters. Listen, I think Sherrod Brown's a very, very impressive candidate, would have been an impressive candidate for president. He's won in a state that's trended red, trended Republican. He's likable. He's liberal, though he's not for Medicare for all, says that would be impractical. So I was a little bit surprised by his decision not to get in, but it's so crowded. I think some of these would-be candidates are saying, listen, it's just too crowded. I got to raise a ton of money, and it would be a distraction certainly from his day job. But watch Sherrod Brown. He's still going to be a force in the Democratic Party, and you certainly would want to get his endorsement in the primary.
And Bob, when do you think the field really winnows down with the Democratic Party?
I think it's going to winnow down later this year. I mean, even the people that have gotten in, they've got to have a staff for roughly a year to get to the Iowa caucus. So I think you're going to see a couple drop out when their poll numbers are unimpressive. But most, I think, will try to make it to Iowa to see what they can do in the caucuses.
Bob Cusack. Bob, grateful you could join us.
Thanks, Rena.